Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 3 on airbrushing for the beginner. Air pressures and paints, guys. A lot of people are like commenting, what pressure do I run, what paints can I use? I'm going to run through a load of paints with you. I'm going to run through some air pressures for your airbrushes. So we'll move on to paints first. Now, airbrush paints, there are loads out there, guys. I'll leave a link in the description to a site where you can look at a wide range of airbrush paints, specific airbrush paints that make your life a lot easier than jumping straight into thick bodied acrylics trying to thin them down, but I'll talk you through them bits along the way. So paints that I would recommend, the first one, which I think is absolutely awesome, is the Createx Illustration. If you are getting into the airbrushing and you want to start doing like portrait pictures, you want to get into them sort of photorealistic types things where you're doing the erasing techniques and the scratch backs and things like that, that is a great paint to use, guys. It really is, because you can manipulate this paint really well. You can spray it down, erase with it, it flows amazingly, atomizes really well. So a very good paint by Createx, and that's the Illustration brand. I'll leave a link to into the description where you can get this paint from. So that's Createx Illustration. That one you can dilute down with water, so nice and easy. Distill water or tap water, you're good to go. The next one in that lineup, we've got Wicked. Now, I've had Wicked paint for quite some time, didn't really use it, but I've just started to bring it off the shelf and start using it again. Really nice paint, pigment in it's really strong, good colour range. You dilute this one down with, I think it's the 4011 reducer, so you get their reducer that reduces this paint down. So if you're mixing this Wicked, you could go 1-to-1, 1 drop of water, 1 drop of paint, 1 drop of reducer, and that's your Wicked. This stuff's good for automotive. Anything you want to drop some clear coat over, say gas tanks, crash helmets, it's ideal for that. So that's the Wicked by Createx. The next one, we've got an ink. This is the FW inks. I've been using this on the channel recently. Really like this stuff at the minute. It flows really well because it's ink, so it's basically straight in the brush and you are spraying. You've not got to dilute it down, but you can dilute this down with water. It's not a problem. Distill water or tap water. You can do like a 1-to-1 or 2 drops, 2-to-1, not a problem. Spray's really nice. Great colour range in these. They do pearls and things like that, different type flips and things in this range. Big selection. You can pick this up from Hobbycraft. So Hobbycraft's usually on your doorstep. That's where you can get the FW from. The next one in the lineup is a budget airbrush paint. I got given this by a friend. I've got a couple of bottles of this. We've got a black and a green. Now this one is quite thick out the bottle, even though it says it's airbrush paint. Now you will see a lot of this on Amazon when it comes to paint and airbrush paints. You see these big sets for like 20 quid for 36 bottles, and it says on the description, spray straight out the bottle. This was one of them ones that is on Amazon. Now I find this paint thins down really well with the flow improver. With this flow improver here, a couple of drops of flow improver, and it makes that paint really nice. So the cheaper sets on Amazon, you've either got to thin it with water or get a flow improver, guaranteed, because some of the cheaper ranges, they are quite thick. So that's that one. The next one is ComArt. This one's been around for ages, guys. This is a very thin paint. You'll find you can put this straight in your airbrush and you spray in. I think ComArt to me reminds me more of like a transparent. The colours seem very light, so you can just really go in light and build up with these colours. It's a good paint though, recommended. That's the ComArt. Moving on, we've got a budget. This is £1 a bottle, Crafter's Choice. Now if you pick some of this up, you're going to pour it out the bottle and it is thick. It won't even run down that piece of paper there. If I poured a bit, it just sit there. It's really thick paint. So if you're mixing this, put it in a plastic container, add water and get the consistency to semi-skimmed milk. If you get it to that consistency as you've mixed it, give it a really good mix, because it's a thick bodied acrylic. It will spray absolutely fine, holds up really nice. Colour range is massive in these bottles, guys. They do every shade in these. Nice budget one to start off with if you're practicing and things like that, or you're doing pictures, canvas work and things. It's a decent paint. So that's that one. The next one is Golden High Float, and I've used Golden High Float from day dot. Been using this for 15 years. It's never let me down, but I think Golden now have changed because I've had a couple of bottles of Golden recently and it's been a pain. The old Golden from years back when I've been using it's been absolutely fine now. Whether they've changed their recipe, I don't know, but it does spray straight out of the bottle because it is an airbrush paint, and you can buy the additives for Golden as well. You can dilute Golden down with water, so I usually mix Golden 1:1, 1 drop of water, 1 drop of Golden. Perfect mix for the airbrush, going down on detail and everything, good coverage. And you can use a flow improver. So the flow improver with Golden will turn your acrylic, you can turn it into like a transparent. The more flow improver, it just sort of breaks down the pigment, but you still get that sort of body because it's the actual additive that helps the paint flow. So that's them paints. We've got Auto Air. Auto Air's been around for ages. Brilliant selection of paints. You do need a reducer with Auto Air, but it's a very good paint, guys, so that's another one to look out for. Moving on to sort of your primers, plastic primers, clear coats, candies, base coats. You can go down the solvent route. Now, if you go in solvent route and with water-based route, just make sure you've got plenty of ventilation in your room extractor. If you're using solvents, mask, guys, because there's some nasty chemicals in the solvent, and there are nasty chemicals in some of the water bases as well, so make sure you've got a ventilation or a mask. When it comes to primers, if you're going down, say, automotive route, you've got different styles of primers. You've got epoxy primers, you've got high build primers, you've got plastic primers, etch primers. There is so many to go down, guys, there really is. Ballpark, if you're doing, say, gas tanks, you get a gas tank in, it's got paint on it, and you want to do some artwork on, it's got a few little chips and dinks, scuff it back, drop your fillers in, drop your high build primer on, or an epoxy. Go epoxy if you're hitting bare, or go etch if you're hitting bare metal. Build up to your high build, sand your high build off, then you can put your base coats down. So like your solvent base coats, you can drop your base coats on. Once your base coat's down and dried off, you're good for airbrushing. You can do your airbrushing on the tank, and then you're going to move on to your clear coats. So you can use, there's loads of clear coats out there. I tend to opt for Capset because I think it's really good clear coat. Capset 6030 HS is a brilliant clear coat. Another clear coat that I found that's really nice is the Custom Paints 2K Super Clear. Very nice gloss levels on that. I'll leave a link in the description to Custom Paints for their paint range. Do some really nice paints. I've got a few of their paints. I've got the candies. I rate their candies as well. These are, you mix these with a reducer, a de-thinner, 2:1. The candies are really nice. Chroma coats and the flip paints are amazing, guys. There's videos on the channel where I've done work with the chroma coat which flips all different colours. Very nice. The base coats, again, really nice base coats. Got a really good selection of paints. So that covers your paints. We've also got multi-mix as well. Now, if you're after clear coats, recommend multi-mix. Again, you get your multi-mix MS clear, you get your multi-mix HS clear, you get your matte clears. I've used them all, really good. They've got the hyper silver as well, which is like a chrome paint, very nice. So that's multi-mix, another brand to look out for. So that's covered the paint side of things. We're going to move on to air pressures. As a beginner, what do you set your air pressures at? Now, it all goes down to the needle and nozzle setup in your brush and your paint consistency. So let's say you've got a detail brush, say you've got the Infinity, one of these, on a 0.2. I find the running pressure on an Infinity with actual airbrush paint, either will it be any of these on here, either the Createx Wicked, Golden, ComArt or the FW Ink, as airbrush paints go, These, I find, a ballpark for me is 20 to 25 psi on your main line coming in with a standard airbrush paint, thinned to the correct consistency, so like 1 drop of water, 1 drop of airbrush paint, or 1 drop of airbrush paint, or 1 drop of reducer for that brand. 25 on the main line. You will be comfortable spraying at that at a steady distance of about, say, 1 inch, going down on your detail, absolutely fine. If you thin your paint down a little bit more, so it's a bit more washed out and thinner, just start to bring your air pressure back from 25, start knocking it down to like 18, 19. And you'll notice, if you put a piece of paper to the side of your artwork, you've got 25 coming in, you've diluted your paint, dropped it in your brush, spray on the side, see how the paint hits the paper at that. If it starts to blow out, it means your paint's a bit too thin, or just drop your pressure down. If you see it blow out, drop your pressure down from 25 down to around 17, 18, or even 15. You'll spray. If it's nice, consistent, you've hit that sweet spot. So that's how you sort of judge your paint. Get your paint mix to semi-skimmed, ballpark 25, and then just start backing off on a test panel at the side and start backing off. If you're on paper and canvas, they're very absorbent, so you'll spray at that and you might be comfortable at that. If you go into automotive, just have a little test panel at the side of it, because it's a smoother surface, and you'll find if you've got sort of thin paint and sort of your pressure's up there, it'll blow out really quick. It'll spiderweb and just blow out. So you just got to judge it on what surface you're on. The only sort of surfaces that you can get away with blasting like 30, 40 psi is t-shirt painting, because they're very absorbent. The minute you spray, it just absorbs straight into the fabric. You can get away with high pressure, thick paints, thin paints on t-shirts. You can just blast it on because it's got something to soak into. But when you start doing papers, or you're doing synthetic papers and things like that, which are really smooth and like shiny, you've got to start knocking your pressures back. Another thing to look out for as well is your distance when you spray with your pressures. If you've got high pressure, back off away from your paper and spray. If you're coming in really close, just remember, if you come in close, bring the pressure down. If you're backing off and you want to get coverage, just up your pressure a bit. So that's a little bit on pressures. I hope this helped you out on the pressures and the paint. Join me in the next one, which is going to be, I'll pop it up in the screen now. That's what we're doing next. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe, press that notification, drop your comments. I'll get back to you in the comments, and I will see you in the next part.